They told us our vote is power, that democracy means choice, that the people decide the future. But if that were true, why does the outcome always seem acceptable to the same forces? Why do certain candidates suddenly become dangerous overnight? Why do some winners quietly disappear while the system moves on untouched? Tonight this is not about left or right, not about countries or parties. This is about a hidden layer of power that never appears on the ballot. A network of people who don't need to be elected to rule. This is what many call the deep state. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. We are told elections are the purest expression of democracy, that the people choose, that every vote matters. But there is a pattern that repeats itself across countries, cultures, and political systems. When the wrong person starts winning, the rules quietly change. Let's start with Romania. A candidate unexpectedly wins the first round of elections. Overnight the narrative shifts. Headlines change tone. Labels appear fast. Pro-Russian, dangerous, extremist, a threat to democracy. The media machine turns on at full speed. Fear replaces debate. By the second round, the system is fully mobilized. The candidate is eliminated from real power. Today, years later, the truth is still unclear. What is clear is this: he disappeared from relevance. The system continued smoothly. The winner was acceptable. The outcome was stable. Now look at France. Candidates who challenge the established direction are allowed to exist, but only up to a point. When support grows too fast, something happens. Scandals explode. Investigations appear at the perfect moment. Media pressure intensifies. The message is always the same. This person is dangerous. This person must be stopped. Elections still happen. Votes are counted. But the range of acceptable outcomes is clearly limited. Germany follows a similar pattern, but with a different tone. Here control is quieter, more bureaucratic. Candidates or movements that question the system too strongly are framed as irresponsible, radical, or socially unacceptable. Financial pressure, media isolation, platform restrictions. No dramatic arrests. No chaos. Just slow suffocation. The public rarely notices. Everything looks legal. Everything looks calm. The direction never changes. This is the key point. Deep state does not need to fake votes. It does not need tanks or coups. It controls the boundaries. You can choose, but only between options that are already approved. When someone steps outside those boundaries, the response is immediate. Not always violent. Not always obvious. But effective. The public sees elections. They do not see coordination. They see debates. They do not see pressure behind closed doors. They see winners and losers. They do not see who decided which winners were acceptable. And after the election is over, the pattern completes itself. The uncomfortable candidate fades away. Media stops mentioning them. Public memory moves on. A new crisis appears. A new distraction. The system remains intact. This raises a question no democracy likes to ask. If the people truly decide, why are some results corrected so quickly? If leadership is about choice, why do certain choices never survive? And if elections are free, why does power always feel so familiar? This is why many believe the deep state is not a theory but a structure. Not a single group. Not a secret meeting in a dark room. But a network of interests that protects itself. Elections decide who sits on the chair. They do not decide who owns the room. Once the idea of the deep state entered mainstream conversation, many tried to dismiss it as a conspiracy buzzword. But the concept did not come from anonymous forums. It entered public debate from the highest level of power in the United States. Donald Trump repeatedly claimed that he was not fighting political opponents, but an invisible structure working against him. He called it the deep state. According to him, intelligence agencies, unelected officials, bureaucrats and permanent institutions were actively undermining his presidency from within. What made this disturbing for many people was not whether Trump was right or wrong. It was the reaction. Instead of debating the idea, the system immediately focused on discrediting the concept itself. The term deep state became ridiculed. Anyone who mentioned it was labeled paranoid or dangerous. That reaction alone raised questions. Trump was not blocked by voters. He was blocked internally. Leaks appeared constantly. Investigations never stopped. Media pressure was relentless. Decisions were delayed or quietly reversed. Even as president, the most powerful office in the world, he openly admitted that he did not fully control the system he was supposed to lead. This introduces a crucial distinction. Power and position are not the same thing. In the United States, entire institutions remain unchanged no matter who wins elections. Intelligence agencies, military leadership, federal bureaucracy, financial regulators. These structures do not reset every 4 years. They persist. They accumulate information. They build influence over decades. A president arrives temporarily. The system stays permanently. Many former officials have admitted this indirectly. They speak about continuity, stability, national interest. But behind these words is a simple reality. Decision-making happens far away from public view. Committees, advisory boards, classified briefings, corporate lobbying and intelligence assessments shape outcomes long before the public hears about them. This is why certain policies survive elections. Wars continue without clear votes. Surveillance expands regardless of promises. Financial systems remain untouched after crises. The deep state, as many understand it, is not a secret government hiding in basements. It is something more effective. A network of people in key positions who understand the system better than any elected official ever could. They do not need to overthrow leaders. They simply outlast them. When Trump challenged this structure openly, the resistance was immediate. Not tanks. Not coups. Pressure. Isolation. Media framing. Endless investigations. By the time his presidency ended, the message was clear. You can win elections. But that does not mean you control the machinery. This is not unique to Trump. Other presidents learned the same lesson quietly. Some adapted. Some stopped fighting. Some never spoke publicly about it. And this is where the deep state becomes more than a theory. It becomes a pattern. People with access to classified information, financial leverage, and institutional authority do not need public approval. They shape reality behind closed doors. Elections decide who speaks to the public. They do not decide who writes the rules. The most unsettling question is not whether the deep state exists. It is this. If even a president can be restrained by it, what chance does an ordinary citizen have? And once you understand that power is not voted in, the rest of the system starts to make sense. One of the biggest illusions in modern politics is the idea that elections reset power. Faces change. Speeches change. Promises change. But the direction almost never does. This is not an accident. Across countries, across ideologies, across decades, the same pattern repeats. A new leader comes in, full of energy, full of promises. Reform. Change. Transparency. Then something happens. Slowly, quietly, the tone shifts. Policies soften. Red lines disappear. The system absorbs them. Why? Because politicians are temporary. Power structures are not. A president serves 4 or 5 years. A prime minister may last even less. But bureaucracies, intelligence agencies, financial systems, and corporate alliances operate for decades. They don't need to win elections. They don't need public approval. They wait. In the United States, administrations change, but wars continue. Surveillance expands. Financial institutions remain untouched after crises. In Europe, governments rotate, but economic direction, migration policy, military alignment, and digital control follow the same trajectory. This is where many people feel something is wrong but cannot explain it. They vote differently. They protest. They argue online. And yet the result feels familiar. The reason is simple. Elections decide who speaks. They do not decide who sets the limits. Real power exists in continuity, in procedures, in rules written so deep into the system that no single leader can remove them without collapsing everything around them. This is why truly disruptive figures are not fought openly. They are slowed down, isolated, neutralized, not by force but by structure. Committees, regulations, courts, international agreements, economic pressure. Everything looks legal. Everything looks democratic. And that is precisely why it works. A politician who resists too much becomes unstable. A politician who adapts is called responsible. Over time, most learn the lesson. Some stop fighting. Some play along. Some disappear from relevance. And the system continues untouched. This is not about left versus right. It is not about one country or one leader. It is about how power protects itself by becoming invisible. The most effective form of control does not announce itself. It blends into normality. People accept it because it feels permanent, because it feels inevitable, because it feels bigger than any individual. And that leads to the most uncomfortable realization. If power does not change when leaders change, then leaders were never meant to change power. They are managers. They are buffers. They are faces. The structure remains. And once you understand this, you stop asking why politicians fail. You start asking who they were never meant to challenge. So far we've seen the pattern. Elections happen. Faces change. Promises change. But power doesn't. We've seen how the wrong winners are corrected. How the deep state doesn't need to be elected. And how politicians are temporary while the system is permanent. This raises a question most people never stop to ask. If politicians don't make the real decisions, then who does? And more importantly, how are those decisions made without you ever being involved? Because real control doesn't look like force. It looks like process. It looks like normality. It looks like a system that keeps moving no matter who stands in front of it. In the next part, we're going deeper into how decisions are shaped behind closed doors, how pressure replaces violence, how control became invisible, and why it no longer needs to hide. Part 2 reveals what happens after elections end, and why most people never see it coming.